Welcome, Blue Jackets fans, to another edition of Where Are They Now, presented by Huntington Bank. We'll look back at the names and faces that made the first 20 years of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey so memorable here in the capital city. And we're actually completing the series today with an interview with a guy who spent 90 games with the Blue Jackets back in 2002 through 2004, part of 3 seasons with the team. It's David Ling. And David, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to join. How's it going?
It's going well. I wanted to kind of seek you out. I know you've had quite a hockey career. As I look back on it, I believe I counted correctly. I think it was a 23-year pro career. So you were,
I think 24 even, but yeah.
23. I may have missed a year. There was just so many experiences that you had, and really looking forward to kind of chatting about those today. And obviously want to start with your time in Columbus. Over 3 seasons, this is really kind of where you got a chance to be spending most of your NHL career. And just as you look back on it, that had to be some great memories. What kind of stands out as you look back about your time here with the Blue Jackets?
Yeah, you're right. It was the first time I played a couple games before that with Montreal. And when I got to Columbus, it was exciting for me, but it was an exciting time in Columbus. The fans were new to the NHL and are pretty new, but they were so, they're the best fans. Like, they're the loudest fans, even though that, they, at that time, they probably wanted us to win a little bit more than we did. But, the organization had its bumps, and now I'm still following the Jackets, and they're one of the top teams now.
Yeah. As you look back, what was it like for you to actually get that ability to play 90 games in the NHL? You said 93, I think, overall is what you played in the league. Most of them here in Columbus. So there has to be a lot of good memories and a lot of fact that, this is where you at least got the chance to have a chance to make a go at it and try to stick. Yeah,
it's every kid's dream to play in the NHL, and I got the chance there to live it and be there, and it was real, and it was something that I'll never forget. You never forget getting drafted. You never forget your first game, and you never forget your first goal. So, I got my first goal in Columbus, and it was exciting times, and it was parts of 3 years that are one of the most exciting parts of my career.
Yeah, and as you look back, I kind of wanted to ask about some of the guys that you played with. This was the early years of the Jackets, so a lot of fan favorites around those teams. Maybe who are some of the guys that stand out to you that you really remember? One I did want to ask on particular. I'd imagine you probably had some good times with Jody Shelley. You guys being both Nova Scotia guys, I'd have to imagine he's the guy that stands out as well as I ask that question.
Yeah, me and Jody are still friends, and we had a bond that we played in the same line. We kind of, he was a lot tougher, but we both enjoyed fighting back then. And it was, we had a bond that he was probably, the closest guy that I was with on the team. But, I remember there's Rick Nash and Tyler Wright and Luke Richardson. And, I'm watching Luke on TV now, but, it's Nicky Zherdev. There was a lot of Mark Denny. There was a lot of high talented players that went on to have really good careers. I enjoyed watching Rick come into the league and watching him, the next 13, 14 years in the NHL. It was exciting just to watch him progress.
Yeah. I imagine too, there had to be with Jody, it had to be kind of cool that you guys were both Haligonians, the guys from Nova Scotia that made it. Was that kind of maybe one of the things that kind of keeps you guys close to this day?
Yeah. It's a personality thing. The East Coast has a different personality, and it was, we clicked, and, we had the same interests. We enjoyed, we enjoyed playing hockey. We enjoyed playing it rough, and we enjoyed having a beer together.
Are there any Jody stories you can tell, or are those ones that are maybe probably best told over a couple of those beers that you mentioned?
I have to keep that on Spit and Chicklets. This is Jody. Even though we were peer, he I kind of looked up to him. He was educated and knew a lot about the league even before I got there. So he was a guy that, we were buddies, but I also leaned on him some.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you kind of mentioned as well, the excitement in Columbus when you started. Obviously, it was a very new team. I think you came in the 3rd year of the Blue Jackets franchise. There's still kind of that new team glow with the fans, and kind of the bond that was there between the fans and the players. What was it like for you just to get a chance to experience that with kind of the excitement that was buzzing around the Columbus market at the time?
Yeah, you really wouldn't understand it until you lived it. They all they wanted was a team that worked hard and gave their best effort. They knew that the expectation wasn't to win 40 games like it is now, but they always were on our back, and they were always cheering, whether it was a goal that put us down 5-1 or or whatnot, they were always there and had our back. And, they were learning as the team was growing. And I think that, I just remember every game hearing at home, it's the 21st straight sellout, it's the 36th straight sellout, and the crowd will go nuts. And that's one thing that you would never forget in that situation, that was, even though we were losing, and as a player, you expect boos and you expect to be turned on. They didn't, and they supported us. And that's one thing that I really look back on as a memory.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously, you kind of talked about the way you like to play the game. I was looking at some of your numbers from the minor league days. I know there was at least one minor league season where you had 30 goals and 200 penalty minutes. That kind of just feels like old school hockey. Is that kind of the way you tried to approach the game? And, obviously, you were a great scorer in juniors as well. But, I mean, actually bringing that edge as well for a guy who probably wasn't the biggest guy in the world also, I think, was a big part of your game. So was it kind of, as you look back, was that kind of the way you approach things?
Yeah, I learned it, and I had the edge. I had the edge growing up, but I learned that if I wanted to play in the NHL, I had to prove that I wasn't, it was a big man's game back then, and I'm 5'9", and I knew that I had to do some fighting if I wanted to play in the NHL. I knew I could play and be a good American League player, but if I wanted to get to the NHL at that time, I had to prove that I did fight, and my dream was to play in the NHL. And if they would have allowed me to play a lot longer, I would have. But it was one of those things where I did enjoy it. But it also was that thing that got me to the next level. And if I think that if I didn't have the physical aspect of my game, I wouldn't have played in the NHL like I did.
Yeah. Is it interesting for you to watch the game now, just because so much of the physicality is kind of not quite the way that it used to be, and it's not quite as rough and tumble as it used to be, and there's probably some pluses and minuses to that, but I mean, do you still enjoy kind of watching the game and seeing how it's evolved over the years, or you kind of miss a little bit of those maybe rough and tumble old days a little bit?
I do, but I played so long into the just recently I stopped playing, and I've seen the game evolve, and it's been a process where it slowly has left, but you can see in the playoffs, and you can see in different organizations that there is still a big man, tough guy that needs to be on the team. But you also understand that the game is gone. It's so fast right now, and the speed and skill of the players is so much better than it was 5-10 years ago. And I appreciate that. I love watching the skill. But I do, the playoffs, you get a little bit more physicality, and I do enjoy that. I do enjoy a little bit more body checking, but I also understand where the game is, and it's a game that's a lot faster and a lot more skilled. The 18, 19, 20-year-olds are the kids that are running the league now.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a little bit from the old days. And you just mentioned, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And it's funny because you're a guy that played, and basically until he was, past the age of 40, when your time kind of here, obviously with the Blue Jackets, and then the AHL days, and then you ended up playing in places like Russia and Finland, which I think a lot of people know are hockey markets, but also places like the United Kingdom and Italy. Just what was it like to kind of travel the world and get a chance to play hockey and see what hockey was all about in different places in the world?
Yeah, it's an experience that when you're in it, you really don't appreciate it. But when you look back on being able to get paid to travel the world, it's something that a lot of people don't get the chance to. I got to see some countries that probably I wouldn't have visited in my life, and really enjoyed it. There's pros and cons to every country I went to. I really liked England because of the English, and I was in countries that didn't have very much English previously, so it was kind of like now I'm back to English. So it was that was good. But every country had a pros and cons. I lived on a ski hill in northern Italy. I lived in a Russia town that was 30 kilometers from China in Khabarov. So I was all over. It was an experience that at the time I'm just loving to play hockey. But looking back, I appreciate what I was able to outside of hockey see and experience.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned you're enjoying playing hockey. I mean, obviously, to play as long as you did, you had to have a love for the game. And I know there's really nothing like it once you leave the game. What did you kind of look back? I mean, what was kind of the pull to keep you in for so long? And just how much did you enjoy playing the sport? Because obviously it was, it gave you a pretty good living, and it was a pretty important part of your life.
Yeah, everyone asks me, like, why did you play so long? And a smile comes on my face. I love the game. I still play. I never say no to a pickup game or a team that needs an extra player. I never say no. I love playing. I love the joking around the dressing room. I love being out on the ice, and I'm probably not as good as I used to be, but it's still enjoying to be able to, there's no still even in rec league to score a goal. It's still, you still get that feeling of, oh yeah, it's a feeling that you don't get in a normal life that you get, now that it's rec hockey or beer league hockey. It's still, for me, it's still fun being out there, and, I'm not getting paid, but I'm enjoying it. I love playing. I love watching. I love seeing players succeed as well.
Yeah. Well, the camaraderie part of it too, I have to imagine, is a big part of it. And as you look back, I mean, playing in so many different countries and over so many different years, I can only imagine the number of different teammates you had over the years. But is it kind of cool to look back and think about those good times that I'm sure you had just kind of hanging out with the guys, and, road trips and things like that? It had to be a lot of fun just going through it in all sorts of different places across the world.
Yeah. And it's fun. You could be at a desk 9 to 5 and you're on the bus traveling around with 20 buddies that you're joking around with and shooting and just enjoying it. So it's a life that you can't duplicate out, but it's the memories that I have with the teammates and the players and the stories that I have. I can go on and on with stories. People say, tell me a story. I said, I forget that one. Then you remember it. So, I didn't appreciate the stories as much as I do now that I'm out of the game, and I became more of a fan of the game than a player. So I'm appreciating all those stories more, and people love hearing, the inside. That's why I think some of those shows where you're going inside the NHL team's dressing room and you're getting them off the ice a little bit, I think fans really enjoy those stories, and really, because they don't get to experience that. So when people are asking and telling stories, I appreciate telling my story more now than I did as a player, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. And we do call this Where Are They Now? So I always have to ask where are you now, and what are you up to kind of in the post-playing days? What's the post-career life look like for David Ling?
I'm a financial advisor with IG Wealth Management, and I'm back and forth between Ontario and Prince Edward Island. So it's it's not hockey, but I really do enjoy helping families and individuals prepare for retirement. It's something that I do get excited about, and I do enjoy helping them.
Yeah. And I mentioned it's something too, that as someone who was a professional athlete and was kind of, getting by on those paychecks, I mean, and going into retirement, you're going to, obviously you played until 40, but not a lot of guys get the chance to do that. Just how important is it to kind of have that sense of what's going to come next after hockey, and preparing for, something such as retirement, because it's so different in your world, at least in the pro athlete world, than for some people, but you've kind of seen it from all sides now. It has to be great to kind of help people, go through it and go through it successfully.
Yeah, it's good. And even reaching out to some players and ex-teammates and reaching out to them, and, not bugging them, but just asking them if they want a second opinion to where they are, just to make sure that they're in the right place, because there are good and bad financial advisors, and it's good and bad advice. So I enjoy helping people. I've seen a lot of players succeed and do well after retirement. I've also seen players and buddies that struggle through retirement financially, emotionally. So it's a community now where the Alumni Association is kind of bringing in a community to help, because there is a lot of good and bad in the ex-player.
Yeah. Well, no, for sure. It's great to kind of see you doing that. It's great to catch up with any of the faces from the first 20 years of the Blue Jackets, but especially with you. David Ling, thanks for joining us here on Where Are They Now, presented by Huntington Bank.
Anytime. Thank you.